Today we're going to talk about money mindset. And this is so important because by analyzing our mindset around money, we can discover what areas are holding us back and shine some light there so we can eliminate them and really build the business of our dreams. So I'm going to start with this quote by T. Harv Eker that says, "Money will make you more of what you already are." So if you are an overspender when you're making $40,000, you're going to still be an overspender when you're making $200,000. So it's important to really dive in and find out what our habits are so that we don't build a faulty business. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Sue Bryce of the Portrait System, but she is a photography educator who talks about valuing yourself and your craft quite a bit. And I just love this wheel of misfortune that she has, where she talks about 8 areas that can trip us up when we're trying to make good money. And I do believe that there are 4 that are particularly troublesome for photographers. Avoidance, not receiving, over-giving, and not setting boundaries. So we are going to dive into these 4 areas in this video to determine if they are a problem for us, and if they are, what we can do to solve these problems before we really get into pricing our photography. So let's start with not receiving. So I love the way she talks about this because she says that life and commerce are a perfect balance of leaving and receiving. And to illustrate this, you bring up both of your hands and you think of your left hand where money is leaving and your right hand where money is receiving. And if these are out of balance when you're building your business model, it's not good. So if you tend to have a hand that is money is leaving more, then that's not a business model. That is a charity. And that is not a good way to build a business. And I think as artists, some of us, not all of us, especially when we're first beginning, look to other people to validate our craft. And if you think that this is you, if you sort of have a mindset where you're thinking, oh, if I just do beautiful work, I just do amazing work, if I overserve my clients, they are going to insist on paying me more money. And you're sort of like holding that receiving hand back, waiting for them to come to you, pull it out and say, no, let me give you more money for what you're giving me. And unfortunately, that just doesn't happen or rarely happens. That worth of our art has to come from us. We have to be the ones that put our hand out. We have to stand up tall and demand what our worth is. So if you feel like what I'm talking about resonates with your mentality and mindset, where you're kind of waiting for other people to demand to pay you, stop doing that and start developing the mindset of just saying thank you when people pay you. Another way to think of this that isn't photography related is if you're the type of person that you lent somebody money and they go to pay you back and you're like, oh no, it's fine, it's no big deal. If you're that kind of person, then you're likely a photographer that's sort of waiting or underpricing yourself, waiting for people to demand to give you more money. So if this resonates with you, you just have to kind of look deep inside and start learning to say thank you and know that your self-worth is coming from inside of you, not from outside. So just get in the habit of putting that right hand up and forward and with a smile on your face, receiving the money. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is over-giving. And this can be tricky because it comes in different ways. It can be over-giving of money. It can be over-giving of time. It can be over-giving of photos. And it's really easy to do. So it's also tricky because it's generally seen as a positive thing if you're a generous person, if you're a giver. But that giving needs to come from a place of surplus. And often when we're building our business, we're not in a place of surplus yet. So it's something we need to think about when we're setting up our business, how to get to that place of surplus so that we can be a giver. But let's see, giving what you don't have is not sustainable, and it creates resentment and exhaustion. So if you are underpriced and just giving away too many photos or spending too much time on your editing, you're going to end up burning out. And it's why so many photographers do burn out. So if you feel like you are an overgiver, you need to spend some time, write down when you feel that you are not giving joyfully. Like, what are you doing in your business where you're not feeling joyful, but you're actually feeling resentful? Write down what that looks like. Where in your business is this happening? Is it time you're spending when in preparation for a shoot? Is it time you're spending editing a shoot? What are the emotions that you're avoiding or trying to get by over-avoiding? Just kind of taking a few minutes and thinking about this and isolating the problem will help you solve it. A really good example that is personal, for me is when I first started out, I didn't have a location guide, and people would say, oh, can we just shoot at this park by my house because it's convenient for me? Well, I didn't like, and I still don't like, I won't go shoot somewhere without looking at it. So I would go spend my time looking at it, planning it out, because that is where they wanted to take pictures because it was convenient for them. And even if I felt like it wasn't a good location, like the light was dappled or there was I knew there would be too many people or buildings in the background, I still would shoot there because that's what they wanted. And then I would spend too much time editing, taking people out of the background and things like that. So overgiving can be tricky in lots of different ways. And in a couple slides, we're going to talk about setting up boundaries to avoid overgiving. But take some time, write down where you believe you're overgiving, what your feelings are around the overgiving, and pay attention to where you're feeling resentful or burnt out or exhausted, because that is usually where you're overgiving. Try to isolate where this happens in your business. And also ask yourself why you think that you're overgiving. What is it that you are trying to achieve by that? Is it just being seen as a generous person, or what are those emotions that you're trying to achieve? Okay. Now we are going to talk about no boundaries, which is so important to avoid overgiving. And I think for me, by setting up boundaries, it actually, ironically, allowed me to give more. Because like I said, giving is coming from an area of surplus. That is how you give joyfully. And the only way to do that is to set up boundaries so that you can do your best work. If you are burnt out and just running around giving into the whim of every request that a client makes, it will just have you feeling that you're not coming from a place of rest and surplus. You're coming from a place of exhaustion and resentment, and then you don't produce your best work. So if you are a person that struggles with no boundaries, you are most likely a people pleaser, which I am. And I feel like a lot of photographers are, just kind of as a generalization. And we have a hard time saying no. It feels uncomfortable to us, but it's important to be okay feeling uncomfortable. I mean, it's ironic that I'm making this video right now because I had to do it this week. And a lot of times saying no is to people that we love or our friends and family. I'm filming this in the fall, and it is my busy season. And I'm also trying to create my course. And I had 2 people reach out to me this week that are very good friends that want senior photos done. And I was trying to accommodate them, but then they keep sort of pushing the boundary. One of them I said, I can do it after December. Like I literally don't have any weekends that I could do it. Now, of course I could make it work on a weekday or in the morning, but then I'm just editing more. And it's funny, the people that always push your boundaries, it's like they're usually the most difficult people. The people that are asking you to do something outside of your scope of work tend to keep asking and asking, and they end up just draining you. So it's really important to say no. And even if it's uncomfortable for you, you just say no and sit in that uncomfort. To get back to my examples, one of them was asking if I could just get those photos, if I could fit her in before December. And I gave her the option I could do it after or in the spring. And she just kept asking and asking. So finally I referred her to a couple of other people and I said, I'm so sorry. If you had come to me sooner, I would have loved to help you, but it's just not possible right now. And I gave high recommendations for other photographers. Another one, my pricing was outside of her price range. So I actually offered her a mini session, and I didn't have a mini session to offer her. So I was kind of adding one to an already existing date. And she still said I was outside of her price range. And this is a very good friend of mine. And I just had to be okay with that uncomfort. I mean, this is my business. And maybe if it's January, I'm not in the middle of busy season, I would have helped out, but I just can't right now. Like I know my limits. And so it's really important to establish those boundaries. I feel like the minute we start sliding with them, it just doesn't work for creating art. And we are artists. Again, this is not a commodity. And so this is something I feel very, very strongly about and will continue to talk about throughout the course in different ways. Some of the boundaries I have set up over the years after going through everything is limiting location choices. I have a location guide that I send out, and I'm pretty strict that that's what people have to choose from. There's a few situations like extended family photos. They always usually want those at somebody, like whatever house they're staying at. But I look at it on Google Earth before and make sure I understand where the sun is going to be and see if I can anticipate any problems with it. And if I do, I will tell them up front nicely, and try to encourage them to choose from my location choices that I have provided. My rescheduling policies and the non-refundable deposit is really strict. And especially during my busy seasons, which are fall and spring. Busy seasons are even overemphasized where I live because the weather is so extreme here. So it's really busy in the fall and really busy in the spring because the weather is okay to be outside. When I lived in California, my busy seasons weren't quite as extreme because people were shooting year round there because the weather is shootable year round. So, I mean, I will reschedule, but they have to notify me within a good amount of time. And if somebody's constantly rescheduling, then I end that relationship because I don't feel like they're valuing my time. Policies, this is a huge one. I had a difficult client once who, I don't know if you guys have heard of this app called Facetunes, but she uses it all the time to mold her body, and she would take my picture, use it, send me the re-edited picture, and ask me to edit it like that in Photoshop. So right when I had that situation, I added a line in my agreement or disclaimer that I send out on my form that I don't alter bodies and people can request, but I have the right to say no, and it will be an extra charge if I do it. This is also a really good one, and we're going to work on this more in the next section when we go over pricing, but you need to have a minimum price on the lowest price on your website has to make you feel happy about leaving your house. And so my example of this is I used to have, so I offer branding, and my branding package is and I knew that people might just want headshots. And so I had a smaller offer where people could just get headshots. It was 20 minutes and it was a much lower price. And that was ironically the lowest price I had on my website. But I started finding that people were booking it and bringing props and sort of almost making it like a petite or mini branding session. And because I'm a people pleaser and we're right in the mid, like we would show up and they would bring that stuff. Just me, I had a hard time saying no to these people. So I had to eliminate that off my website. Now I do have a hidden page that I can send people if I feel like they are truly just looking for headshots, but it's not something I have advertised out there. And it's more so that I'm saving myself because I know that I have a hard time saying no in certain situations. So I'm not even going to put myself in a situation where I have to say no. I hope that makes sense. It's almost like I'm setting up these boundaries for myself so that I'm not in a situation that I don't handle well. Another one is the guidelines of communication for how clients should prepare so that you can deliver your best work. A good example with this is your style guide, so people don't come with loud logos and then you're taking pictures that you are not passionate about or don't fit your style. Another example that fits in this for me is I offer posed newborn photos, which is a ton of work. I don't have a studio. I go to people's houses and set up a mini studio, and they have to do certain things so that they have to help them get the best photos. And part of this is making sure their house is picked up. I have a short guideline that they need to read, and I make them, check off that they have read it, because if they don't do certain things, like have the baby awake the hour before I get there, which is super inconvenient when you're trying to get ready, then the shoot just doesn't go well because the baby's not tired enough to get into the sleep that I need them to get into. And so I over communicate certain things with that. And if I'm still not getting that people are willing to do that, or they're asking questions that clearly tell me they haven't read the preparation guide, there have been a couple of times that I have given deposits back and said, this isn't going to work, because I knew I was going to go into a situation that I would not succeed in. And then I would have to overwork. I would be there for more hours trying to get the baby to sleep, or sometimes you just know. So I guess setting boundaries up really helps you establish yourself as the expert, and people actually respect you more for doing that. And it allows you to do your best work. So it's worth thinking about your client experience and where you can set up boundaries so that you are not being put in a position where you have to say no or it's awkward. Thinking through all of it just helps you be better at your job. It helps you deliver better work, and it puts you in a position that you are established as the expert. So we can still people please in a different way. We can people please by giving great work. So, okay. The last one we're going to talk about is avoidance. And this will lead us into pricing. But if you're one of those people that avoids looking at your bank account daily, or if you're in debt and it's like gives you anxiety, you're probably not looking at your numbers, which how much you're spending and how much you're charging. So the solution to this is action. And that's what we're going to do in the next video, is really dive deep into your numbers to figure out how much you actually need to make to be profitable. We're going to analyze and shine a light on what's wrong so you can have more power and confidence in your business. So, you know the saying, where your money goes is, or where your attention goes is where the money flows. So, just taking responsibility and action for your money allows you to build the business you want and to build the business that will attract the clients that you want. So I guess this is all a way of saying we can't avoid looking at our money. We can't just randomly price our craft. We have to dive into what we're spending and our time and our hours that we're putting into it to really price for profit, which is what we want to do. I know that we enjoy the art of photography, but if we don't price for profit, then we end up starting to feel exhausted and run down, and we stop enjoying photography, which was the whole reason we got into this in the first place. So the next video is really going to have us dive deep into our numbers, and I'm excited to go over that with you. All right. Thank you.